In this video, we're going to look at hierarchy relationships and prefabs. To demonstrate both, we're going to make a set of stairs for a character to jump over. In level 2, go ahead and rename the cube that is in your scene to step. Now we're going to want to duplicate our steps a bunch of times to make a set of stairs. So you can do that by selecting or right-click it. You can right-click on your step or control-click and select duplicate, or you can I'm on a Mac, Command D, and just do that 5 times. It will duplicate the position as well, so it'll be in the exact same position, but they're just on top of each other. So go ahead and reposition them so that they're evenly spaced to look like a set of stairs stacked on top of one another. And a good hint is that they are 1 width wide and 1 width tall. So I have my basic stairs now. You can add color to them if you want. So I've got my basic steps now, and they're approximately where I want to be. They're floating, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and create what will be their parent object. I'm going to create an empty game object. I go to Game Object, Create Empty. I have this thing that just called Game Object. Now, like any game object, it does have a transform. So it has a position, a rotation, and a scale. But because it doesn't actually take up space with a collider, and it doesn't have any sort of color or visuals, position, the actual transform doesn't matter a great deal. It's going to end up being relative. So let's go ahead and rename it. I'm going to rename it this time through Inspector. Let's call it Stairs. And now I want to add my steps as children to my stairs. To add them all at once, select the first step in hierarchy, select Shift on the keyboard, and then the bottom step in hierarchy, and I'll select them all at once. Now you can drag all of them to stairs in hierarchy, and they're added as children to the empty game object stairs, and you can hide them by clicking that triangle and show them again by clicking it again. So the neat thing about that is that when they're parented, you can add them all at once by moving the parent. So the position of game object is actually just relative. Now we might want to end up having more stairs in subsequent levels or this level. So instead of having to go through that again and again, we're going to make our stairs into a prefab. And prefab is short for prefabricated. And the way we do that is in Assets, you can select Create here, or you can right-click in Assets, Create, Prefab. And this will be something that we can carry, an asset that we can carry across to new levels, drag and drop into a new scene, and we'll have our stairs again. So let's name it Stairs, Enter. And then you can drag from Hierarchy the stairs onto this prefab, and you have a stairs object. This is cool because I can drag it again into a scene and drop it, and it's there. There are actually a bunch of objects in our scene that would be nice to have as prefabs because we'll use them over and over again in different scenes. The main camera is probably one. Normally we just start out with a normal camera, but we actually have made it a little special. We added that load script. So we could keep on adding the load script to our new camera for each scene, or we can right-click, create, prefab, call it camera. You'll still have to change things about it though. One thing I would say is that you need to be careful. Once you have a prefab, you are able to make changes to a game object in hierarchy. So I could change this to level 3 even though we don't have a level 3, and then click apply, and that would apply it to all of the prefabs, to this prefab, and then all of the other prefabs in other scenes. And that could mess you up if you have customized settings. So be careful of that. You might want to also turn your ground and your wall into, scroll out so we can see it, into prefabs. So you can go ahead and do that. This will save the size of the object, everything in the transform, the color, and it'll also save any scripts or taggings or components we have added to it. So it's very useful. And finally, I would make a prefab of our portal. So we've got quite a mess actually in our assets because we've got a bunch of prefabs. So we can make a folder for this. Go to Create, Folder. Let's name this Prefabs. It's pretty typical in an assets folder to have a folder of prefabs. And you can grab your camera. You could actually select them all at once by clicking on one, holding Command, clicking Portal, and Wall, Stairs, and then dragging them into prefabs. You might also want a particular folder just for organization for your scripts. Another folder for your materials. I accidentally put that folder inside of scripts. So I will drag it out by putting it into assets. And go into assets, I see materials. So I'll put the materials inside of the materials folder. And then let's make one more folder for levels. And drag it out of materials again. Sorry about that. So I would recommend at this point you could go ahead and create an entirely new scene and start adding in some of the prefabs that we've made to make scene production a bit easier. In fact, one that I forgot that's a big one is we want to make a prefab out of our character. So again, create prefab, say Laura, drag the Laura character to the prefab and drag the prefab to the prefabs folder. So go ahead and play around with making more scenes out of your prefabs. And in the next video, we will work on adding in some light and shadowing into our project.